Hello, and in this iOS development video, I'm going to talk briefly about using a dependency manager to include third-party frameworks in your app. In the previous video, or one of the previous videos, you might remember we showed how easy it is to use a framework to leverage the power that someone else has written in an open source project to easily create forms in your iOS app. We said in that video that we were just going to include the framework manually in our project, but I did say that there were dependency managers that would make this process easier. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate just how easy that can kind of be and how simple it can be, but with using a dependency manager called Cocaopods. Now, in Swift, there are several dependency managers. The Swift standard library actually has its own one called the Swift package manager, but Cocaopods, I tend to find is used more, and particularly if you're using a package manager and installing from the repository that the package manager has, then it's a case of where the packages are stored that is the package manager you're gonna want to use. So briefly, package managers can handle installing packages, keeping packages up to date, managing packages on a team, and it's really like version control. It's really a part of sort of grown-up software development. If you work on an app of any sort of scale, you're going to need to be using dependency managers. So just to set the scene, as I always do, for example, here I've got the our project up from the last time where we messed with Eureka forms, and it's got all this special Eureka form stuff in here that's getting use of unresolved identifier because it doesn't know what any of this Eureka is because it doesn't have the framework stuff enabled. So let's put it back in. But first, let's think about the stages that we had to do manually, because then we'll appreciate how much this framework is doing for us. So we had to go and download the project manually from GitHub, which means that if there was an update to that framework, we wouldn't get the update automatically. We also had to copy the framework files into our project and copy those two things into a workspace so that the Xcode could manage our full project correctly. And we also had to link the framework code to our code in the project settings. We're going to see that Cocaopods is going to take care of all that stuff for us. So how are we going to do that? Well, first we're going to close Xcode because it can't work on a project that's currently open. So I'm going to close Xcode. I'm going to open my terminal here, which all Macs have, and we're going to do this, Cocaopods, the way we get it is by using a dependency manager itself, and Cocaopods is part of the Ruby Gems dependency manager, but fortunately all modern Mac operating systems have Ruby Gems installed on them, so you can just follow along. What we're going to type is sudo, meaning give full permissions, gem, install, and then Cocaopods. So I'm going to press return. Now, because I've used a sudo command, I'm basically saying I want full permissions, it's asking for my password, so I'm going to enter that in here. It doesn't show the status of your password, so even after you've typed it in, you'll just get a kind of flashing cursor like that. So anyway, I'm going to press return. And it's going to fetch all the dependencies, and then we're going to get this link that says done, 1 gem installed. So we now have access to Cocaopods now. Cocaopods has its own command called pod, and we're going to use several options of the pod command. We're only going to scratch the surface of what Cocaopods can do in this video. Basically, just look at this ability to add a framework to our code, but obviously, like I said, it can manage dependencies between teams, it can manage updates, tons and tons of stuff, but I just want to get you started. So anyway, to start letting Cocaopods manage our dependencies, we're going to go to our project folder in the terminal. So I'm going to type cd, which just means change directory, and then drag our project folder on there so it knows to change to that directory. And now if we go up to the title of our terminal, it says where we currently are, so in our cool app directory. want this whole project to be managed by Cocaopods, so we're going to type pod init. That's going to create all the Cocoapod stuff. We didn't get any errors, so that's all good. How do we actually use this? Well, like with lots of dependency managers, it puts some, it installs some files basically into our project folder. There's this pod file here, which is equivalent to a gem file in Ruby. So we're gonna drag that and open it in a text editor. You can see it's very simple now, but here's where we're in a list where we put all our frameworks underneath where it says pods for collab. And here's where you define what frameworks in your project and what frameworks to manage. So I, for example, know that the framework on here is called Eureka, so to include Eureka, I'm just going to say Eureka. And I'm now going to, like it says here, we're going to define a global platform for our project. If you're, for example, creating an iOS and macOS app that's using some of the same code, you might not want to do this, but our project is only an iOS project, so I'm going to uncomment a line that says what platform it is. That just kind of makes it a bit easier for Cocoapods to manage what we're doing here. And we're not on iOS 9 anymore, so I'm just going to put iOS 11.4. So that's the correct format for a pod file. If I now I exit this, obviously it's going to say, do I want to save? And yes, we do. How do we update our project here to get with the pod file? Now, if you've used Grunt before or James in general, you're going to know that we need to run another command to have it look back at that pod file and update our project to be in concordance with that pod file and kind of use the dependencies we asked it to use. Well, to do that, there's a special pod command called, and again, we're still in our project directory, called pod install. So I'm going to get those frameworks and put them in a format where we can use them in our project. If you notice it says, please close any current Xcode sessions, but we already did that. And just like when we used a framework manually, it's created a workspace for us that contains our framework and our project is saying use that workspace from now on. So and it gives us a little summary of what I did there. If there's any errors, it will be reflected there. So if we now go back into our project file, you see we've got several projects. We've got our project and a pods project, which is basically a framework in itself that manages all of our pods. But if we open our workspace, which is the important bit, we can look at what it's done for us. Well, for one thing, it's gone into the settings of our cool app here and linked our pods framework. This basically says link any pods that are managed by Cocoapods, but in this case it means link Eureka. And now, because Eureka's in our project, that means we can go into our view controller, and all we have to do now is say import Eureka, build, and we're gonna compile without any extra errors because it knows what Eureka is. So guys, that was just a quick demo of how to use Cocoapods. Really is something you need to do if you want to level up your Swift or development in any project programming language. Dependency managers are huge because you'll quickly end up with lots of dependencies and it'll quickly become unwieldy if you don't use some sort of automated manager. So thank you for watching this video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.